Have you ever opened up your pantry or your cold storage to your beautiful onion harvest that you worked so hard to grow and noticed that they were starting to sprout and go soft, and looked at them and wondered, is there a way that I can still save these and not let my hard work go to waste? Well, that is exactly what I'm going to be doing today. I harvested these onions in July. Look at all those. And these type of onions typically have about a 3-month storage life. So ideally I would have gotten to them about 3 weeks ago, but this is real life around here and it didn't happen. And so now I am dealing with sprouting and soft onions, but that's okay. I am not gonna let all of this work end up in the compost. Today is onion preservation day. No idea how many onions I have here. When I harvested them back in July, I had 240. I have used a ton of them in canning and in cooking, and this is what I have left. So today, to make sure that these onions last me the rest of winter, I'm going to be doing 3 things with them. To start off, I am taking all of my red onions and I am going to finely dice them and get them running through the freeze dryer to create my own homemade onion powder. Now, if you don't have a freeze dryer, that is okay. You can definitely do this exact same thing, but with a dehydrator. I will probably also use some of my yellow onions for that because that is what I have the most of. But then I'm gonna leave myself a good amount so that I can make some French onion soup, both for dinner tonight and to go into the canner to eat all winter long. And when you process that many onions, you're gonna have a ton of scraps left over. So we are gonna save those and make a really delicious onion broth that we also are going to pressure can. I have a lot of work before me, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and I would absolutely love it if you joined me for the day as I got all of these onions processed. These onions are from my garden, so they have a really dirty outer peel, and then like I said, because I didn't get to them soon enough, some of the outer skin is getting kind of soft and mushy as well. So I'm gonna take that off and throw it away too, because I definitely don't want to use that in anything that I am making today. Now, I don't mind if there's a little bit of this papery skin left on here, as long as I pulled the outer peel off and removed all of the dirt and nothing on here is mushy or slimy. I love that homesteading isn't just teaching you guys how to grow your own food, but also how to save it and how to use it once you do. Because every onion that I am able to put up means that is one less onion that I have to purchase for my family this winter. So let's go ahead and turn this almost spoiled harvest into shelf-stable food, homemade soup in jars of broth that I'm gonna be able to use all winter. I am gonna cut off and dispose of the root end because there's a lot of dirt in there that's hard to get clean. And then I'll take the end that is sprouting and cut it off. But I'm not gonna dispose of this. It's gonna go into my roasting pan to make a really delicious onion broth. And then to save time, I'm gonna chop these onions with my Kitsch chopper. I do not know why I even tried to wear makeup today because my eyes are burning like crazy. Homegrown onions are so much stronger than store-bought onions. Holy cow. This is the first onion that I've cut into, and it's rotten on the inside, but you can tell like the outside layers are perfect. So I'm just gonna peel that out, dispose of it, and keep the rest of the onion. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I did just Google if cutting too many onions can damage your eyes. Lucky for me, the answer is no, it does not cause permanent damage. But my eyes are not very happy with me right now. I feel like they may be starting to get actually a little bit numb, which would be nice because they are watering and burning and it's making me congested. But the good news is all of the purple onions I have gotten pretty much processed. This is the last little bit right here. They're gonna fit on my last tray, and then I'm gonna have to figure something else out for the white onions and whatever's left of the yellow onions, because I guess I have way more than I realized. And that is a wrap on the red onions. This is gonna make the most beautiful onion powder I think that I have ever seen. All right, let's go get these thrown into the freeze dryer. If I was smart, I would have started this first thing this morning, but I didn't even think about it. I need some beef broth for my French onion soup, and I don't have any. What I do have are beef bones from getting our beef processed, and so I'm just gonna throw those with some water into my Instant Pot for about 3 hours. And then I will have some homemade bone broth to use in my soup. While the broth is starting, I'm gonna do just a really quick tidy on this kitchen because the onion all over the floor kind of drives me crazy, and I work better when I'm not in a giant mess. So this is gonna take just a couple minutes to kind of reset, and then we will get started. All right, I already did the hard part of taking off the dead tops and pulling the roots off and the loose skin. The messy part, I should say, cleaned that up, and now I am gonna get these yellow onions processed. I sat here and thought about for a little while what I was gonna do because this is more onions than I want to use in French onion soup. But I decided I'm already spending the time to caramelize onions, so I might as well just caramelize all of them. And then I'm gonna make a freeze-dried caramelized onion powder with half of these. So tomorrow when those purple onions come out of my freeze dryer, I'm gonna let it defrost and then I will fill it up with the caramelized onions. And 24 hours after that, we will have some caramelized onion powder for our pantry, which I think is gonna be amazing. So let's get started on these. Just like the red onions, I'm gonna cut off the top. It's going to my onion broth, and I'm gonna cut off the root. It's going in the trash. Now the only thing different here is we obviously don't want skin in our soup. So I'm gonna take this outer layer off and it's going to go straight into this roasting pan so it can be turned into a really delicious, cozy onion broth that's gonna be perfect for flavoring all kinds of soups. And then I'm just gonna take these onions and I am going to thinly slice them. I am hoping that these onions aren't anywhere near as strong as the red onions. So far with that first onion, my eyes are not in pain. So hopefully it stays that way because those onions, those red ones, they were killers. I'm curious, guys, if you had this many onions to put up at a time, what is it that you would do with them? Would you be making onion powder or onion flakes? Would you be doing the broth or the soup or just something else completely different? I am curious to know what you would do with them. I'm always looking for new ideas, so make sure and let me know in the comments. I have been chopping for what feels like hours now. I know when you guys see this, you're gonna think, oh, that didn't take long. Let me tell you, it is very, very condensed down, but I have tons of onions now. My house smells very strongly of onions, and I decided to go ahead and save back just a few of the bigger, nicer onions that aren't soft at all. I'm gonna put these in my pantry just for fresh use. And I'm gonna get started caramelizing these onions. My bone broth is done cooking now. I had to go get my kids from school. I'm back. The onions are chopped and it is time to get moving. Actually, change of plans. I have this roaster oven full of all of my onion scraps. I'm gonna go ahead and get this onion broth going because this is going to cook all evening and then all night long. So we have a really delicious, rich broth, but it's in my way on the stove. So we're gonna get it going right now. I'm just gonna put this on low heat, like 200 degrees. And this is totally optional. It's not something that I planned on doing, but I took out all of these beef soup bones to go in my Instant Pot to make the French onion soup. And this was like a pack that is frozen solid together and they didn't fit. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw them in this onion broth, and I guess it'll be like a beefy onion broth. And then for some additional flavor, I ran out to the garden and I grabbed some thyme and some rosemary. All right, now we really are gonna get started on this French onion soup, which means I have about an hour of caramelizing onions ahead of me. I'm gonna do this in 2 Dutch ovens. I have a stick of butter that I cut into half, and I am just gonna put half in one and half in the other and get them heated. When you caramelize onions, low and slow is the name of the game. You do not want to burn these, but you want to caramelize them and add this sweet, rich, incredible flavor. So put your heat on low, do not get in a hurry, and turn it up to high. I'm gonna put my burner on 3. And once that butter is good and melted, we are just gonna go in with our onions. I'm gonna put the lids on these and let them sweat down for about 10 minutes. And then the lids will come off and I'll start the caramelization process. I did have some onions that didn't fit in my pot. I had too many. So I'm just gonna put these in a bag and throw them in the fridge. I took just a few minutes to clean up my kitchen while these onions were melting down, so my husband, when he gets home, can walk into a nice cleanish home instead of a disaster zone. And I lit a candle because the onion smell is strong in here. These have been melting down for about 10 minutes, maybe a few minutes longer than that. And I'm gonna take the lids off and start caramelizing them. All that entails is to give them a constant stir. So about every 1 to 2 minutes, they're gonna release a whole bunch of water here in the beginning. And as that water evaporates, they're gonna start turning very slowly into a nice, beautiful golden caramel color. We are 1 hour in and they definitely are not caramelized yet, but we're starting to get just a little bit of color on them. These caramelized onions are taking forever, so I took most of them out of this pot and transferred them all to that pot over here. So there's just a little bit in here, enough that we will have dinner tonight, and I'm hoping that since there's not a lot in there, they'll caramelize faster. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on our baguette pieces. I am just slicing these pieces about 1/2 inch thick, and I'm doing it at an angle. I am just laying this baguette out on, I don't know what you even call this. It's like a little metal tray, but it's gonna go in my Typhor sink oven and just get really nice and toasty. I am gonna put a little bit of olive oil on each side of the bread just to help it toast up. This is finally that beautiful dark color we are looking for. I'm gonna put just a little bit of flour in there to help thicken this soup up. We still definitely want it to be very brothy, but that's just gonna help get it nice and velvety smooth. And then I'm gonna go in with that beef bone broth that we made. We're gonna add salt and pepper. Do those to taste. And then some fresh thyme and rosemary. Lid on, and we're gonna let that simmer for 30 minutes. While our soup is simmering, we're gonna go ahead and shred our Gruyere cheese. The toast is finished and ready to come out. It's beautifully toasted. I wish you guys could smell how absolutely amazing this smells, but I am gonna go ahead and get this in our bowls so we can have dinner. We are starving. I'm gonna top each of these bowls with 2 pieces of this baguette toast. And then a good amount of this Gruyere cheese. And then I'm gonna pop this into my oven. I had it heating up on a high broil, and I'm just gonna let that cheese get all gooey. That's only gonna take a minute. I cannot wait until dinner. It looks beautiful, it smells amazing. And it finally is dinner time. Look at the time, guys, 8:17, so 3 hours later, and we finally have beautiful golden caramelized onions. That took a whole lot longer than I assumed that it would. So I am going to let it sit here and cool off just a bit and then move it to the fridge for the night, and we will pick back up here tomorrow. Now, I will tell you guys, the soup was good. My husband loved it. I liked it, and my kids weren't really fans. Not because it wasn't a good recipe, but just because French onion soup was new to us. I had had it one time before, but I don't feel like we loved it enough to make it worthy of canning. So with all of these onions, I am just gonna go ahead and make a caramelized freeze-dried onion powder with them. I'm not going to make any more of that French onion soup to can. This is how the onion broth is looking before we go to bed for the night. It is gonna simmer all night long and be ready to can in the morning. It's going to be a late night. It is 10 p.m., but I am just now having time to get to this onion broth. So my setup here for this broth is I have a big pot, and then I have just a regular strainer, and I have a fine mesh strainer, and I am just going to scoop the broth, pour it in here. That's going to keep all of the onions, all of the meat, all of the herbs out of my broth, so hopefully it will be nice and clear. This smells so good and looks gorgeous. Let me show it to you guys really quick. Look how beautiful, dark, and rich this broth is. And then while I'm doing this, I have the water in my pressure canner heating up as well, because this does have to be pressure canned and we want to match temperature. So this is hot broth, so it's going into a hot canner. And then we're just gonna ladle this broth into our canning jars. Now, I don't mind fat in my broth at all. If you do, and you want to take the fat out of your broth, you can just put this in the fridge overnight, let it cool, and all of that fat is gonna solidify at the top. You can take it out, and then you can go on to this step. I personally think that it adds a ton of flavor, and I don't mind to leave it in. I didn't add any salt to this broth, so if you want it salted, you could have either salted it when you started it. You can salt it now, or you can leave it unsalted, which is what I'm going to do, and then just salt the final product. So I will probably be using these in like a pot roast or in a pot of soup, and I will just salt at that point when I make that product. The red onions are completely dry, and ready to be turned into a purple onion powder. I am kind of like stupidly excited about this, but it's so pretty. And you guys, the smell is incredible. I am throwing a few oxygen absorbers in there just to make sure that this stays a really nice, beautiful powder and doesn't get clumpy. I let my freeze dryer defrost overnight, and then I was ready to load up these caramelized onions. They are definitely not the most appetizing looking food that I have ever seen, but if you could only smell them through the screen, you would know how amazing they turned out to be. I also went ahead and threw those onions that I just had sliced on the freeze dryer trays as well because I had extra room, and I just decided that would be the best option for us. This is what they looked like once they came out of the freeze dryer, and I followed the exact same thing. I threw them in my food processor, I blended them up, and then I just loaded them into my mason jars, put oxygen absorbers in there, and put the lid on tight. And again, same thing with those white onions. There's something so satisfying about seeing all of this food from my garden that's ready to use all winter long. It's like my own little winter grocery store and is one of the best feelings in the world. This is one more harvest saved before winter sets in. Freeze-dried onions, a cozy meal on the stove, and shelves that are just a little more full. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And I will see you guys next time. Until then, may God bless.